Okay, right, let's rewind. Good afternoon. We're going to be going through the Masterclass Send 2 for the CDI. My name's Jenny Connick, very embarrassed Jenny Connick, but let's get going. Okay, so some of you apparently who were on this Masterclass attended the last Masterclass, so that's going to be quite interesting. I have done a little review because I didn't know who was actually attending this Masterclass. So we'll just do a little review of part of what we did in the first masterclass. So who is Talentino? So we are independent, award-winning social enterprise. My background, I was an HR director. So I don't come from a careers advisor background, but I definitely come from an employer background. So we would be the lead provider working with special schools across the country. And what we do is we train special schools to run our programs and use our resources. And I think anybody that is in this part, is in this part of career development, you can't help but be in it without actually, it becomes very compelling. And so we definitely challenge for change and want people to think more about young people with SEND. We run a free annual, and we put this in here on purpose. So usually it's a conference, but this year it's a virtual festival in November. And we will be running that in November, and it will be certified by the Career Development Institute, CPD certified. So somebody said, no, we can't see the slides. Okay, so yes, that's who. So Lynn, that's up to the CDI to sort that out for you. So we are a strategic partner for SEND for the Careers and Enterprise Company, and what we really want to do is improve outcomes by what we call reimagining the career development that young people with SEND actually get. Okay, so we're just going to change slides. This is not helpful today, so there we go. So today is the second of 4 masterclasses, and it's about building your confidence and knowledge to work with young people with SEND or additional needs and who are disadvantaged or vulnerable. And each one of them will build on the previous masterclass. So when I designed them, my expectation was that maybe there would be a core of people who would actually do each class, and it looks like that we've actually got that. So, which is brilliant. So each one will include content around thinking about, working around the coronavirus restrictions as well. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to cover we're going to have a review from Masterclass 1 for part of Masterclass 1. And then we're going to look at statutory career planning processes and EHC plans. We're going to think about career pathways from school and beyond. I'm going to highlight some organisations who can help you, who you can tap into. And we're going to look at, why employers are absolutely key to improving outcomes. As I said, we'll have some examples of how careers advisors are mitigating the impact of COVID in their practice. And we'll have a look at a case study from an Ofsted Outstanding Special School. Okay, so hopefully that's all right for you. Now, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves. You don't have to take your videos, you don't have to put your videos on if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. But maybe if we can just do a quick little scoot round and just introduce ourselves. So, Ashley, can you take people off mute, please? Okay, are we off mute yet? No? Okay, so I've got a list of people who are here. So perhaps if I just call your name in turn and you just say who you are, who your organisation is and what your experience of working with young people SEND is. So Mel, can you tell us who you are?
I'm an IAG coordinator at a secondary school, Oxford School in London Borough of Redbridge, and I wear 2 hats. I'm a as I say, a careers advisor, and also I'm work in SEN myself.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Mel. Well done for going first, always scary. Right, Sven, can you tell us who you are?
Hi, I'm Sven Rees from, I'm an enterprise coordinator from the West of England Combined Authority. I live in Bath. I used to be a secondary school teacher, so I've worked with SEND schools in mainstream secondary schools.
Brilliant, thank you. Can Mr, Mrs, Ms or C Hines tell me who you are, please?
Hiya. Hiya, Jenny. My name's Carly Hines and I'm a Careers Hub Coordinator in the North East.
Carly, hello.
Hiya.
And the Careers Hub Coordinator for, excuse me.
For SEND in the North East.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Carly. So, fab name, Liz Taylor.
Hi there. Yeah, it's a bit of a burden really, but never mind.
Go with it, I would.
Live with it now. So my name's Liz Taylor. I work for CXK for most of my time, and I do quite a lot of work. So CXK delivers guidance in schools in Kent mainly, and quite a lot of my work is in special schools, delivering one-to-one guidance and group work as well. So that's really why I'm here today. I have worked with people with special needs as a learning support as well in a FE college. So, but I'm relatively newly qualified actually. I sort of changed career late in life. So I used to work in HR and graduate recruitment many years ago. So that's me.
Right, thanks. And I've met you. I've just realised.
You have, Jen, yes, because I came to the development day that you ran at CXK.
Yes.
Great.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, and you.
Okay, so Amy, almost anonymous Amy.
Hello, I'm a careers advisor at Moulton College, a further education college, and I'm responsible for doing the one-to-one guidance for the students, and I've been doing more and more one-to-one guidance with the students with EHCP plans, and I'm hoping to develop my expertise in that area.
Brilliant. And is Moulton College, is that amazing place where you've got an equestrian facility? And
yes.
Oh God, lovely. Great for a day out, even if.
Yes.
Okay, super. Karen Childs, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So yeah, I work as a personal advisor for YC Hertfordshire, formerly Youth Connections, in East Herts, and in 2 secondary schools. So I work with SEN students to do their PFAs for the EHC plans, and I also work in the community, so helping SEN clients into their next step. So this is what I'm really interested about today.
Brilliant, thank you. Dill, hi, we've communicated by email, I know.
Yes, we certainly have, yes. So I'm Dill and I'm a careers advisor at Kidderminster College, and so I've been there about 3 years now, but as part of my role, similar to, was it Amy I do one-to-one advice with all students, FE students, and I'm working a lot more with the students with ECHP plans, and I just want to develop my knowledge and skills to be more confident, so yeah.
Yeah, that thing around confidence is the big thing, I think. Thank you for that, Del. Lynn.
Hello, everyone. My name's Lynn Addison, and I'm a careers and employability advisor, and I work in both mainstream and 2 special schools, although I have worked in probably 4 or 5 special schools in the Nottinghamshire area. So I'm the SEND coordinator for a careers and guidance company called Ideas for Careers. And I guess I come from a background of actually being an occupational therapist and have worked in learning disabilities, mental health, working with older adults. So I come from that background. I also have a family member who has a learning disability. So I started working in a couple of special schools and suddenly realised that I was on a very steep learning curve. So learnt some Makaton, which I'd done many years ago. Use symbols as well as part of the individual advice and guidance. We also deliver some group activities, and more recently with the 2 schools I've been working with, we've been very much trying to work with the parents.
Yeah.
Because it's about raising aspirations, and so many parents want to go for what I call the safe option, which is we've got Portland College in Nottinghamshire, and that's a very good college, but I can certainly think of some students who I've worked with where I thought, no, you could go into supported internships or look at apprenticeships, and family are like, oh no. So we do special coffee mornings with them and try and raise aspirations.
I think, Lynn, really, you should be running this course. But anyway, I shall call on you if my voice goes.
I've got loads of things that I want to learn. And, you know, if you ever stop learning, then that's the time to stop.
Oh, gosh. No, we never stop learning. So do you work with Nethergate School?
No, I don't. I work with Foxwood Academy, and I work with Beach Academy. And both of those schools specialise in working with young people who've got learning disabilities and autism.
Yeah. Okay. That's great, Lynn. We're going to have to move on, but I really appreciate that, and I think you just you took lots of my key strands in that.
Oh, sorry.
Video. No, it's not a criticism; it's a compliment.
No, thank you. I'll take it.
Mel, tell us about you.
I think I've already told you.
You have. That's true. For some reason, you're down my. Okay, it's actually
my coffee.
It's Malk 1 next.
Yeah, hi. My name's Mags Alcindor. I currently work for CTEC Outsource as an apprenticeship development coach. But prior to coming on CTEC Outsource for the last year, I worked in FE as a deputy head of department and dealing very much with special educational needs. I also have a daughter who has autism. So from a personal and a professional aspect, I wanted to see how I could use some of the expertise that I gained in FE for the last 12 years and working across the SEN department to see how I could now use it in a training organisation.
You are very welcome.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Sarah Caulfield, full title.
Hi, I'll put my video on. Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi, I'm a Careers and Progression Advisor for Manchester Adult Education Service. So I mainly work with adults, but soon I am going to be introducing myself to a class that's specifically for learners with EHCPs, so they're from 18 to 25.
Yeah.
They already work with an organisation who support people to get supported internships and into employment. I think my role is going to be working with them for the sort of like level 6 careers advice side of things due to the Gatsby benchmark. So I haven't got loads of experience at all, so that's why I've enrolled onto this course.
Yeah, brilliant. You're very welcome. Apparently I've got 2 more Amy's. Is this true?
Yeah, I'm a second Amy,
Second Amy. Tell us about you.
So I'm Amy Toll and I work for CTEC Outsource along with Mags.
Right,
I'm a teaching and learning lead. Kind of been through the ranks of training provider work. So everything from a coach, quality assurance, quality management, over across into teaching and learning. And obviously me and Mags are both here because we are looking to try and build a bit of a wider understanding and programme support for SEND. So we're both here just to see what we can learn and take from the programme to take into our aspects of delivery for work-based learning and working with apprentices.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Anna Brady?
Hiya, I'm the careers team leader for Blackpool and the Fylde College, and we look after FE and HE. We deal with students right across the board from all ages. We take some 14 to 16 provision as well, so it could be students from sort of 15 up to 90 across all and abilities. So we're just a small careers team, so that's why I'm hoping to just get a bit of experience, a bit of information really.
Brilliant. You're very welcome. Debbie Jones. Hello. Do we have Debbie Jones?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, sorry, went strange then. Yeah, Debbie Jones, I work for Samuel Connections. I'm a careers advisor in 2 special needs secondary schools. So just want just to update my knowledge a little bit more, really.
Yeah.
Confidence, like you say, confidence is a big thing.
Yeah. And do you work, so which 2 schools? Do you work with Westminster?
I work in Westminster, yeah, and Braid Lodge as well.
Yeah.
And Braid Lodge is emotional, social, behavioural.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay.
And I think that's everybody, unless somebody wants to say, you haven't asked me.
Hi Jenny, it's Ruth Broom.
Oh, Ruth Broom, how could I miss you out? Yeah, tell me about you.
I'm the SEND EC for Birmingham Careers Hub.
You are
so we've just set up our SEND community of practice, which I'm responsible for. So I'm getting myself up to speed. I am a qualified careers practitioner, but I have worked with young people with special needs, but as a provider. And I'm also, in a previous life, was an HR consultant, so I'm definitely as well coming at it from.
There's a few of us.
Yeah, so really passionate about it, and I'm sort of overdosing on master classes at the moment because I'm doing all the CDI ones and all the CEC ones next week.
Oh gosh, right. Well, yeah. If I've got a voice left.
Sorry.
I said if I've got a voice left.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I have done though, because I wasn't quite sure who was coming to which, was I have actually designed, they are different from each other. The EC one, there's a core information at the beginning, and then we kind of go off into more different, different kind of roles. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you for introducing yourselves. It just makes this whole experience feel a little bit more human. So
Hi, sorry to butt in, but I'm here too.
And who's that lovely?
I'm Elizabeth Urquhart.
You are Elizabeth Urquhart. I actually wrote your name down and then didn't speak to you, so don't.
That's okay. I'm probably the only person that's on here from Scotland, I'm assuming. And today is actually my graduation date for my postgrads in career guidance. So yeah, I've got a son who's got DLD, and he's kind of really inspired me to realise I want to be sure that him and other kids like him basically reach their potential. So it's very personal. I was a police officer and was retired early, and went to work as a PSA in a school, and just really enjoyed working with young people with additional support needs. So,
I don't know how I could have missed you out.
Congratulations, Elizabeth.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
Whereabouts in Scotland are you, Elizabeth?
I'm in Fife. I'm in Dunfermline. So I was at Edinburgh Napier University. So
fantastic. Have I done anybody else a disservice?
Thank you.
I'm here as well.
Oh,
who's that? Hello.
Hi.
Who's that?
Yeah, Deb Beasley.
Hello, Deb Beasley.
Hi.
So tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, very quickly. I'm a careers advisor in a state selective grammar school, and part of my job is giving one-to-one guidance to students with EHC plans. And I'd really like to develop my skills and knowledge to be able to help those students.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. Have I now not offended anybody else? That's a double negative, which means hopefully I haven't. Okay, I'm going to mute you all, and then we will crack on. Thank you. I just think, particularly as I know most of you have actually signed up for all 4, I just think it's really nice to actually get together and to find out about who's on this course. And we will be doing breakout rooms, so you will actually get to know each other as well. So that's brilliant. Thank you for that. And I'm going to mute you all again now. Okay. Right, let's get rid of that. So, National Careers Landscape for Young People with SEND, quick revision. I'm conscious that we did this in the first masterclass, but just so that we're all on the same page, I think it's important that we look at this. So SEND is an abbreviation for Special Educational Needs and Disabilities, sometimes written as SEND, sometimes written as SEND with a D in brackets, because not everybody with SEND has a disability. As you know, young people with SEND face huge barriers, and some of you have got personal experience about that. And you know, those, we shouldn't forget those who are vulnerable, because there are millions of young people in the UK that are vulnerable as well. So we really need to think about all of those young people and what they need. 1.3 million young people with SEND, around 15%, sorry, about 15% are in mainstream, and around 280,000 have EHC plans. I'm sure that you all know what an EHC plan is, but just so that we're clear, from a career perspective, an EHC plan enables a young person to actually be able to access career opportunities and career support that those without EHC plans cannot access. And your role, and we are a bit evangelical about this, is critical to enabling young people to achieve their career aspirations. Now, the National Career Strategy was published in December 2017 with a statutory guidance in 2018. This infographic, which you can download from our website, shows you what schools and colleges need to deliver for young people with SEND. And the language has been lifted from the National Career Strategy and statutory guidance. So particularly on the careers advice and guidance little section on the bottom right, that explains in clear terms exactly what that personal guidance means. And personal guidance needs to be delivered by a level 6 qualified careers advisor, but happily they can also be a careers advisor that belongs to a school now, so an internal careers advisor, which is brilliant. So who are young people with SEND? So we can't talk about them in terms of, oh yes, they're at that type of educational, they're in that sort of educational setting. They are in a wide range of settings, and you can see there, so they could be in special schools, specialist schools, mainstream, SEMH, and so on. You will get more than one group of young people with SEND in the same school, and it really depends on the local authority's approach to inclusion. So I live in Reading, lots of special schools. Nottingham, which Lynn was describing, the policy there is for as many young people to be in mainstream schools as possible, so far fewer special schools. Young people will often have multiple additional needs, so it's not about saying a young person with SEND is like that. They are multidimensional like the rest of us, and their needs may look like all of these. They may have one, two, or a number of these issues as well. And the formal definition is held within the SEND Code of Practice. So why is it important we know who young people with SEND are? So firstly, one person, young person with SEND is completely different from somebody else. So in terms of thinking about, you know, the careers activities and the careers guidance you're going to give, it needs to be aligned to the positive career outcome that they want. Possibilities and a discussion around them. So it's not about shutting down. It's not about, you know, what somebody can't do or the potential negatives. Not about coming from a deficit model. It's about focusing on positive career outcomes. And it's also about taking into account that all stakeholders need support to actually, if they're involved in the delivery of those outcomes. So we're talking about employers, families, somebody mentioned families earlier on, really, really important. And it raises the possibility of achieving improved career outcomes. And as I said earlier, I really want us to not forget vulnerable and disadvantaged young people. So the SEND Code of Practice, the function of the SEND Code of Practice is to identify a young person with SEND in terms of the barrier that they face, and to be able to then identify the support that's required, and for that support to be organised. And the SEND Code of Practice identifies 4 groups of young people. So it covers ages 0 to 25. So the 4 groups are communication and interaction, cognition and learning, social, emotional, mental health difficulties, and physical needs. And as we said, young people with SEND are multidimensional, and it's not just about saying, oh, they're like that, aren't they? So for the purposes of career development planning, really what we need to think about is, does the SEND code of practice give us what we need? And the answer is no. So what we do is we take those 4 groups identified in the SEND code of practice, we bring them together, and then we split them into 2 groups. So Career SEND Group 1 are young people who typically will not be taking GCSEs or level 2 qualifications, but they should be able to experience positive career outcomes like supported internships, inclusive apprenticeships. And Debbie Jones from Sandwell, you're one of the few people, Sandwell, that I've even found an inclusive apprenticeship at Westminster School. Supported employment, volunteering, provision via the local offer. And the local offer is a suite of opportunities which are provided locally, which the local authority has the statutory responsibility to publish. So if you don't know what your local offer is, you need to look at that. T-levels, which are starting in September, traineeships, supported enterprise and self-employment, or FE college. So in terms of career destinations for Career SEND Group 1, there are a multitude of possibilities. However, most students go to college, and that may be a brilliant opportunity or it may be a less than brilliant opportunity. And the issue with that, as I see it, is that career opportunities there are very few employer training and employment driven opportunities, and that's the issue, the key issue for that group. In Career SEND Group 2, so these are young people who typically will take GCSEs. So if they have, if their barrier is not an intellectual barrier, but it's another barrier, another additional need, young people in this group should be able to access positive career outcomes that are exactly the same as their mainstream peers. They may need some adaptations, they may need some additional support, but in terms of the outcomes, they should be the same. So university, college, apprenticeships, employment, T-levels, traineeships, enterprise self-employment. If they have an EHC plan, they could also access one of the supported career opportunities, the same as Career SEND Group 1. The key issue for this group is overcoming multiple barriers to career success. So a statistic that I quite often quote is, if you take a looked after child, looked after children, 6% go to university versus 48% of their mainstream peers. Why? It's not because intellectually they can't access university, it's all the other stuff that gets in the way. So for this group, you need to be far more granular in the interrogation of the barriers that are stopping this group achieving positive career outcomes. So key career challenges for young people with SEND. They are, what we found, we work with a lot of schools, about 150 special schools around the country. We don't work with anybody in Scotland, Elizabeth, I'm afraid, yet. But so the first one is about low levels of knowledge about who young people with SEND are, and that's why we always start with going through that, when you've got the SEND code of practice, but actually what's useful is looking at these 2 career SEND groups. So the first thing is really understanding who these young people are. Secondly, Lynn made the point there about families and carers needing support. They can be, for any child, parents are known as, they are the biggest determinant of somebody's career outcome in terms of influence. Personalised support for students with the most complex needs. In special schools, this will happen probably every hour of every day. In mainstream schools, there's a lot more stuff that gets in the way of that. Lack of appropriate careers resources, although that is changing. Obviously Talentino produces specially designed careers resources, and we've worked for Barclays Life Skills and the Careers and Enterprise Company, so there's a lot more careers resources which work for these young people now. Much activity is hyper-local, so this is about kind of sharing best practice, and Carly was saying that she's the careers hub leader of the SEND careers hub in the Northeast, and those SEND community of practices within those hubs are doing a really good job of sharing expertise, which is brilliant. employers wanting to engage with young people with SEND, but many are still anxious. You know, this is employers. I guess what I want to say is, you know, employers are not like lumps of people. They are individual people within an organisation, and they can be anxious the same as many people are around people with disabilities. And it is about, I think it's sort of incumbent on all of us as career professionals to kind of recognise that and to say, well, what can we do about bringing people's anxiety down, building their confidence? You know, some of you actually mentioned, you know, I want to build my confidence, and yet you're working with young people with SEND. So I think there is a sort of, it's a sort of polite anxiety, I think, that we don't want to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, or, you know, and actually our prime motivation is to actually do something really rather good for these young people. But, you know, stuff just gets in the way, I think. So it is about, one of the things that we do and people like about what we do around SEND is we're very direct, and we try and make it sort of be very, we take the emotion out of it, not because we don't feel emotional, but because it's actually useful to kind of like use models and comparisons and so on, in terms of, you know, so for a young person in mainstream it would be like this, for a young person with SEND it would be like this, etc. There is a kind of supply and demand issue with supported employment provision and job coaches. In some parts of the country there are sufficient, in others there aren't. We talked about, you know, the number of opportunities available, college provision, and, you know, I apologise because I know there's some people from colleges on this course, but, you know, schools have an expression, progress to regress. So some college courses do not offer any additional value for a young person going from school to college. And, you know, they may have already done their career readiness stuff at school, and it isn't actually moving them towards the employment market any further than when they were at school. And, you know, that is an issue in some places. And, you know, there is a shortage of qualified careers advisors with the right skills and knowledge around SEND. Okay, so quick fire quiz. So I need to unmute you all, and you're all going to shout at me now, which will be fabulous. So I'm going to unmute you all. Okay, so I can now hear you. So I'm going to ask you a question, you can shout out the answer. Maybe, if we get our questions. Oh, they've all come at once. Go away. Right. So first one is, what are the two career SEND groups?
Those that will not take GCSEs.
GCSEs and
those that won't. Group
And
1
then-
and Group 2. 1 and 2.
Absolutely. Couldn't hear what anybody said, but I think they were. Can you name 3 key career challenges for young people with SEND?
So families need more support, lack of resources, and anxious employers.
Very good, Sven. I think you stole the show there. Okay, number 3. Name 3 reasons why it's important to know who young people with SEND are.
So that you can channel things that are right for them as individuals, so that you can work with the parents or the carers, and so that you can work with the employers as well, because if you don't know who your SEND group are, how are you going to train employers?
Absolutely. Well done. Okay, you're too good. I'm going to mute you all again. So I can keep control. Okay. Right, so let's go to the next bit. So statutory career planning processes and EHC plans. It's worth having a little trip through this. So first of all, let's think about what an EHC plan is. So an EHC plan is an education, health and care plan for children and young people aged up to 25 who need more support than is available through special educational needs support. So children who don't have an EHC plan but who are defined as having SEND have something called an individual, in England anyway, I'm not quite sure, Elizabeth, what it is in Scotland, but they have an individual support plan in England. And an EHC plan identifies, as it says, educational, health and social needs, and sets out the additional support to meet those needs. And a request is made to a local authority, And different people can make a request to carry out an assessment. So a parent, a carer, a school, a doctor, and any other professional that, well, not any other professional, but other professionals who think a child might need an EHC plan. And a young person can request it themselves if they're aged 16 to 25. And the local authority has an obligation to tell you within 16 weeks whether a plan is going to be made. But I would just point out that the new COVID legislation that came in April means that local authorities can, and I quote, do what they can according to Article 39. So some local authorities will decide they can't do anything that's actually specified on that plan, and some will decide to do some things, and some will carry on doing some things. And I know that the first cases have gone to court challenging local authorities only doing what they can. And it's fair to say that local authorities' budgets for SEND is always overspent. So it's always a fight. And this is one of the key issues for families, is everything is a fight to get what they need for their child. And it is, you know, that's the emphasis on it, is what they need for their child. Only 20% of young people with SEND have an EHC plan, which means that, you know, some opportunities will not be available to some young people with SEND. So on the right hand side of this slide, you've got there's a couple of websites. So the NDTI, which is probably the best kept secret, it's a wholly funded charity by the Department of Education. Somebody mentioned it earlier on, actually, and they're the National Development Team for Inclusion, and they have Pathway to Adulthood, Preparation for Adulthood, PFA. And they have a whole series of resources and advice and literature on their website, which is all free. And if you want a really deep immersion into all of this, then I would definitely recommend you have a look at that. Excuse me. I've been Zooming all week. So, as we say, as we identified, there are over 1 million young people with individual support plans, so they could be in school or college. But EHC plans identify smart outcomes around education, health and employment, healthcare and employment. And there's almost an equal number of young people with EHC plans in mainstream schools and special schools. Those figures are published annually in May, so we're still waiting for the ones for this year, obviously. But you know, it's fair to say that every year the numbers go up. So the sorts of support that's identified on EHC plans could be things like the cost of travel. So if you can't travel independently to school and you need to get a taxi or a minibus, then the cost of travel can be met. Cost of adjustments, if you need additional equipment or equipment adapted, those costs can be met. Support at school, so that could be a person, an additional person, part of a person. Support at home, specialist equipment, therapy, so that could be speech language therapy, personal care, help with your personal care, and supported employment support. So when it comes to careers, EHC plans can generate additional career opportunities like supported internships and supported apprenticeships, plus supported employment support and job coaching, and access to work funding, which also can include, so for those of you organising work experience, it can include 2 weeks supported work experience for interview costs, travel costs, job coaching and adjustments. So access to work is a little bit tricky because although it's a system, it's a nationwide system, it's not applied in the same way across the country, and even in the same vicinity, the same, you know, one access to work person might give you a different judgment than another one, so it is tricky. There are statutory processes and tools. So there's an annual review for children with EHC plans. So that's at school, and all of the people, you know, there may be other organisations, you may be social workers, adult social care, there may be a number of people who attend that review, obviously parents, families, teachers, careers advisor, although I did hear one local authority has stopped, well, it's probably more than one, has stopped actually funding careers advisors to attend the annual review, which is a real shame. So the annual review is a statutory process of looking at the needs and provisions specified in the EHC plan. The first review of the EHC plan must be held within 12 months of the EHC plan being finalised, and subsequent reviews, are held annually. The big one, the transition review meeting in year 9, marks the start of planning for the young person's transition to adulthood. And they will be asked their opinion and asked about what their aspirations are for themselves. And there's obviously the element about becoming more independent, including where they want to live and being part of their community, qualifications and skills. Health, obviously there's a health pathway, so reviewing factors relating to their health. So you can see that this process is probably a much more holistic process than if you were taking a child in mainstream that doesn't have an EHC plan. If you think about, what does their career development experience look like? EHC plan reviews must be person-centred, which means that the young person's aspiration will be key considerations. And the young person should be helped by their SENCO or teacher to prepare for how they would like to share their hopes and goals for their future at their review meeting. I mean, some of you will work with children who will have communication challenges, and so you need to be creative about how you actually enable that young person to contribute to the discussion around their future, and that is a big one. So there was a report written by Professor Tristram Hooley about 4 years ago about transition, and fairly sort of standard but basic recommendations, but still worth just kind of like popping in your pocket. So starting young and maintaining support across the life course, which would be, there isn't a single sort of golden thread or what we call value chain. The value chain gets broken when somebody moves, from school to college, or when they become 19 and they move to adult social care. There isn't a single, apart from the family, which is obviously key, there isn't any funding stream or any support mechanism that goes all the way through. Secondly, encounters and experiences with employers are really, really important. There's this phrase, you can't be it unless you see it. For young people, some young people with SEND will be in multi-generational unemployed families that have never seen anybody work. The family doesn't expect them to work, so there is an aspiration raising aspect to that. Ensuring access to support and relevant activities, so careers guidance, teacher support, specific job skills training, involving families in the tradition, and that can be really tough to achieve that, but it's really key. And ensuring that once they do get a job, that learning and support continues in the workplace. Okay, so we're going to have a little breakout room now. So what's going to happen is I'm going to pop you into a breakout room. So what will happen is that you'll lose the connection with the main course and you'll go into a breakout room with a few other people. And what I'd like you to do is to share your experience of engaging in career planning processes and discuss what went well and what could have gone better. So you've got 10 minutes and then I'll bring you all back and I'll take the mute off and we will share across the whole group. So I'm going to put there's my bevy of beauties. Right, I'm going to take my life in my hands and unmute you all. Okay, so gradually you're all unmuting. So is that nice to meet each other in your breakout room?
Absolutely.
Good, good. So we're going to do that. We'll build up a little bit of a team, I think, a little bit of a team morale over the next 3 courses. So you exchanged kind of like experiences of kind of what went well, what didn't, maybe didn't go quite so well. So I'm just going to ask, so we had 3 breakout rooms, didn't we? I believe. Yes, somebody answer me. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So, well done. So I'm going to, for some reason, not all of you are unmuted. So I'll have somebody from a breakout room to talk to me. I want one person to tell me kind of the things that went well, that they, that they've experienced, that they could maybe share with other people. Karen.
Oh, I think we all agreed in our group that getting families involved early on is the key factor, and where you're managing expectations. Maybe sometimes the expectation is quite, too high or too low.
Yes. Yeah.
And perhaps to try and get them to see, not just saying, no, you can't do that because, but showing them. So we thought that was good, didn't we? What else did we think was good? Getting employers. Sarah had really good stuff with your college, don't you? That you keep link up with an employer.
Yeah, we already have an organisation that offer work experience placements to the young people, which is, I think it's like a 12-week, I think they go to an employer for so many weeks, 3 times a year. I don't know whether it's different ones. I'm yet to learn more about it really. So they are getting experience of different sort of employment. So that's quite useful, but then I'm to go and sort of see if that is still what they want to do. And I know that I was saying to the group that one young person wants to be an Eddie Stobart truck driver. And he apparently has cerebral palsy. I don't know too much about cerebral palsy, but for me it'd be about, well, if that is something you'd want to do, then obviously this is what you'd need, like obviously to get your driver's license initially, and is then it's for, I wouldn't want to be saying you can't do that, so that would be something I'd worry about, not saying the wrong thing, but obviously letting that person decide and their family decide if that is something realistic for them.
Actually, on that point, I was doing a session this morning and we were talking about just that actually, and the first school that we ever worked with, which is a large school for young people with a range of learning disabilities, and it was actually one of the students that came up with something that is a really brilliant thing to do. So the student said, so you could have a money job then and a dream job. Yes. So the dream job is I want to be an Eddie Stobart driver, but the money job is the one that's going to enable them to buy their video games, their cinema tickets, all that. And it's actually a student came up with that, and I just think so it's about unpicking, as you would with any young person, that sort of career aspirations, but actually using that sort of combo, and and saying well, my dream job would be to have a cupcake shop or something, whatever it might be. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that, but it's kind of just using that money job, dream job, very simple, actually arrived at by a student with a learning disability. So okay.
As you said about unpicking it a little bit, I can think of a student who had learning disabilities, was on the autistic spectrum and had Tourette's, and he wanted to be a doctor, and he was he might get a couple of GCSEs, but that was it now. And I said, well, it's about, well, that interests me. Why would you want to be a doctor? Well, I like Doc Martin. Oh, right, I love Doc Martin too. And then we went on to other reasons. And when you actually unpicked it, it was just that he had a very close family member who was being treated for cancer, and he just wanted to make them all right.
And that is one of the issues, isn't it? When they see, I know with looked after children, for example, social worker can often be a job, because that's a job they're familiar with, because they're on the receiving end, and that's somebody who they've trusted, and so it can be quite
But then
So,
we came to a compromise and said, well, can you think of, that's going to be an awful lot of exams, but can you think of anything else as a step towards that? And he said, well, actually, I'd just really like to learn first aid.
yeah.
And that is what he's done in school. He's done a first aid course and he's very happy with that. And now the relative is a lot better. He says, why did I want to be a doctor?
But you know, all credit to actually kind of like unpicking what can be kind of make us feel uncomfortable, because, you know, somebody said earlier, you don't want to kind of like depress somebody's aspirations, but actually, okay, so let's have an experience that maybe didn't go so well. So maybe somebody wants to share and maybe what they did. Liz.
Just really the way I work, because I'm employed on a sort of 0 hours contract. You know, I go into schools and you really just have a one-off encounter with a young person, and depending on the school, it's sometimes very difficult to get information in advance about the students. So I often have to think on my feet, and you know, and sometimes obviously you don't have the background, so you're not entirely sure what is realistic for that person. So I tend to focus in that situation, I tend to focus on, I still think we can all have our dreams, even if they're not realistic. I think if you have a dream, then that can move you in a direction, and then, you know, you might find something. Yeah, so I do things like, you know, we'll draw a dream cloud and look at what they might want their adult life to be like. Who would they want to live with? What would they want to be doing? What type of holiday? So I tend to keep it a little bit more general. And again, sometimes I have a key worker in there who's done a lot of work with them. Sometimes it's just the student, and I think they just benefit from meeting someone outside of the school and talking about their ideas that way.
I think it's
frustrating not having any continuity, or, you know.
I mean, you could kind of say, I mean, strategically, you could say, well, you know, there's all these kind of like aspirations, for example, you know, making, you know, in the National Career Strategy, it says, you know, named careers advisor having a long-term relationship, you know, and the places that, I mean, I would imagine that that's the minority, that's not the majority. And actually, you know, so there is a kind of a macro level, there is an issue with supply and demand, with funding, with knowledge and skills, you know, and I think in our practice, we can just try and boil it down to what we can do. So, and schools, I know when they're contracting, it's like, well, you know, there's this many students and that's 30 minutes each. So there's no kind of like preparation time factored in, or post review time or reflection time, and it's but I mean, I think that's something, you know, again, it's about, we have to try and create.
I mean, to be fair, we do CXK, we try to go back to the same schools and have the same advisors, and there is some continuity there, but it just can be difficult.
And I guess maybe it's, you know, so I mean, CXK is a big organization, you know, it's got influence, and it is trying to sort of like maybe influencing, you know, elsewhere. Okay, I'm conscious that we probably need to move on, but if you liked breakout rooms, we can try them again. Particularly if Ashley sorts it out for me next time. Okay, I'm going to carry on with some slides. Hopefully we will carry on. And next we will look at, okay, so let's look at career pathways.
Okay.
So, oh, I need to mute you all as well, otherwise I'll be listening to your dogs. Right, okay, cheerio. Right. So career pathways from school and beyond. So I thought it might be just worth just looking at this. So remember the two career SEND groups. So career SEND group 1. So they may be at the age of 16, they may be in school, in a special school, in a sixth form college, specialist school or college. And obviously the age of transition, I mean, transition is a process. So obviously it's lots and lots of different things, but people often think of transition as the point at which somebody's transitioning. So it could be at 16, 18, 19, 25. For some youngsters, you know, it will come between 19 and, you know, so they may move, transition from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And in education terms, you could have kind of 3 pathways, if you like. Particularly in special schools, they might be called this. So you could have an academic pathway, so that's sometimes called a formal pathway, a vocational pathway, which is semi-formal learning, or a nurture pathway, which is sometimes called pre-formal. So if you've got an EHC plan, Career Send Group 1, then you're looking at career destinations that could look like this. So the options at 16 would be that you could stay at school until maybe you could stay at school till you're 18 or 19, so year 14 in some special schools. If there's a T-level available, you may do a traineeship at college. You could do a supported internship if you've got an EHC, or an inclusive apprenticeship. Again, both of those things have got to be available. And it's probably just worth mentioning, supported internships are available through providers like Project Search, but they're also, some employers will actually create them themselves. So people like National Grid will have created their own supported internship programs. So it's not necessarily the case that you've got to look at somebody else's. It may be that an employer may have their own. At 16, you could also move to a school that has a sixth form, or a sixth form college, or FE college, or you may move to a specialist college, or you may do a pre-supported internship program at school or elsewhere. Options at 18 to 19, so most of the above, or a supported employment with a job coach, or supported volunteering. You could do an extended work placement, which is where you work for it's like extended work experience with an employer that you wouldn't be paid for. And I guess we need to be careful about that as well, because there are, with my old HR director hat on, there are boundaries around that in terms of if you're doing the work of an employer at the place of the employer, and you're not being paid for it, there is a kind of bit of an ethical, but having said that, there is also a value to doing that for young people in terms of building their confidence and their skills. You may be moving over to adult social care services at the age of 18, and that can be very traumatic for young people, because all of a sudden, one day you're not an adult and the next day you are. Well, we know it doesn't work like that, but yeah, that needs a lot of thinking about, and something may be available through the local offer. And there was some research done about what tends to be available via the local offer, and it does tend to focus on children with the most complex needs, PMLD students and so on. That may have changed, but certainly when that first came out, that was what local authorities were focusing on. And then the type of options between 18, 19 and 25. So again, it's kind of all of the above, plus FE college. Remember, we're thinking about Career Send Group 1. Could be a specialist college, supported volunteering, or provision through the local offer. So because Send, that age group is up to the age of 25, that means that those possibilities are available until the age of 25. So for Career Send Group 2, and remembering that this group, their career destinations should look the same as any other youngster the same age who doesn't have Send and isn't in Career Send Group 1. So they could stay at school till they're 18, T-levels, traineeships. They could access supported internships or apprenticeships if that's suitable for them and they want to do that. They could move on to college, FE college and so on, or they could move on to taking A-levels or BTECs or that level qualification. And at 18, 19, it would be the same as their peers. But again, thinking about the huge amount of support that they will need to successfully navigate studying in those environments. And in terms of options between 18, 19 and 25, so you're also looking at, if they've made a decision, it could be that it's one of the career choices from above. So So Ruth just asked, is an inclusive apprenticeship driven by an employer? Is there guidance for employers around this? Please, can we have the career destination slides? Yes, you can. Is there guidance for employers? There was a report published, and I think if you, so Westminster School in Sandwell actually have a successful inclusive apprenticeship scheme. If you look at the report that was published by the DWP about inclusive apprenticeships, what I love about them is that it's really, the decision is made individually about that individual student, and so it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of who you could actually bring into your organisation. But again, I would definitely, I'll provide a link, not straight after this, but I'll give it to Ashley to send out. Okay, so that's thinking about career destinations, and then thinking about why is it so important, you know, that to improve outcomes that we engage employers. So we need to sort of think about how we can make employers actually, you know, how can we help them make the difference? So it is about ensuring they feel confident and positive. You know, so many special schools will provide free diversity and inclusion training. So find out if the people you're working with do that, because maybe you could help facilitate that. Starting the process with, you know, get them to work with young people as soon as they possibly will, and also help them, you know, take time to get to know the young person and their families. Encourage them to make employer, you know, engage with young people, because there's no doubt that, you know, if you're competing for jobs without, you know, qualifications that employers recognise, like GCSEs, getting a reference from work experience, or, you know, securing a part-time job whilst you're still at school is massively powerful when you're then going to go to an employer for a job. And, you know, once employers start working with these young people, they definitely kind of get in the groove, and they definitely are kind of more, I guess, you know, encouraged to provide, you know, supported internships, inclusive apprenticeships, and employment opportunities. And there is a bit of a contagion effect, which is a positive thing in this case, you know, that other employers follow their lead. One of our schools, they actually have an employers award scheme. So they bring the employers together twice a year, and the students make an afternoon tea. And I tell you, their cake making is absolutely gorgeous. And they award employers bronze, silver or gold awards, depending on what they've done with the children. And, you know, you can see the employers thinking, well, I only got a bronze award, so how did you get a silver, you know? And it kind of just boosts them to just do a little bit more, which is really, really excellent. This school, so Carly will know this school in the northeast. So Catcoat Academy is in Hartlepool, and it is one of the best special schools in the country. Hartlepool itself has double the amount of unemployment of the rest of the country, although, you know, post-COVID, you know, we don't know, but it's still going to be high in comparison. And it also has high levels of child poverty. So this is not an area with, you know, that's hugely well resourced. But this school was led by a head teacher called Alan Chapman, who unfortunately became ill and passed away very quickly last autumn. But he'd been with the school for 25 years, and he applied long-term planning and continuously invested in the school. And their offer to their children is just amazing. It's second to none. So they have education and employment-related training up to the age of 25 and actually beyond. So they went through a process of securing some premises, which Alan had saved up for 15 years for these premises to create a 19+ provision, and their oldest learner is 47, because if they don't want to leave, they don't have to leave. And there's such a richness and array of opportunities for post-25 people with learning disabilities of all levels. They have an enterprise curriculum that's based throughout the school, and it's for staff as well as students. They have extensive employer networks. They operate pre-supported internships, supported internships. They have training in real workplaces that's run by the school, so cafes, in school, in the town centre, in their local art gallery, reprographics business, a shop. And their careers advisor is an internal level 6 careers advisor who had actually never worked with youngsters with SEND before, but I think she worked for the job centre, and she came into the school maybe 4 years ago, and she's made a huge difference. And I just want to share a film that they're so resourceful. They actually got funding to make this film, and I'm just going to share it with you. So this is probably the best thing you'll do today, is actually watch this film. So what we have to do so that you can see the screen is I have to click on it and then come out and then go back again. So don't think I've lost you. The film's about 6.5 minutes long. So I know you can't see that, can you? No. So we're going to come out, and then we're going to go back in again. Okay.
As head teacher at Catcode Academy and Catcode Futures, I want all our students to lead happy and fulfilled lives.
We like to offer as many opportunities as possible to our students, regardless of their ability, getting our children best prepared for adulthood in the world of work.
Only 6% of young people with special educational needs and disabilities actually get opportunities in life.
This is why business partnerships matter so much to us. By working together, we can improve student motivation and their aspirations that could change their lives forever.
In the future, I would like to be a teacher assistant. I would like to get a job to earn money and serve customers.
I'd set up my own business.
If it wasn't for the YEI, I wouldn't be going back to college to get qualifications to become a teacher assistant. So it's helped a lot, because otherwise, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
I would like to be a security guard to help local police.
In the future, I want to be a full-time and never give up.
My impression of what the work Catcode have done so far, I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and give them the best opportunities and best life chances that we possibly can. I've got nothing but commendation for the work that Catcode are doing.
Business and enterprise has been an embedded strand, a strategy at Catcode Academy for many, many years.
We've divided our enterprise into different skills, and we've divided those skills down into levels of ability within those skills.
Enterprise commandments that were designed for the students as personal and thinking skills were quickly adopted by the staff. It's applicable to everyone in work, I believe.
Taking our newly agreed European skills and working with employers, ensuring we hit the targets required in the world of work.
For children who have complex needs, a big part of their curriculum is their engagement with people, their engagement with projects, resources and activities, and their understanding of events, what's happening around them, what's going to happen now, what's going to happen next, in order to improve their confidence and their preparation.
We have a programme of internal placements, supported, safe spaces. We have our own cafe, we have our own salon, and so on. So the students are well prepared and trained, and then they're more prepared to make that transition into the real world of work, to go out into the community.
When Christopher came to Catcode, his confidence wasn't brilliant. He was quite a shy young man, and the change in him was just remarkable. This is all down really to the work experience and placements that he's been allowed to do. What he said to us when he said he was going to be earning a wage and employed, it was such a big thing, wasn't it? Because
I think it's one of the most important things to young girls without the want to be part of society.
For many of our students with profound, severe, complex difficulties, we have a cafe in town, we have a retail outlet in town, so that is a real work experience for our students to show off their skills.
What the school's doing is putting students in the front line of retail I see this as being groundbreaking, not just for Catcoat School, but for the retail industry. We as an organisation help Catcoat School to demonstrate to the world what they're capable of. And that was from there, that.
45% of employers are really anxious about recruiting people with disabilities. And I think that's people with disabilities they can see, let alone ones they can't see.
I would say just listen to the testimony of current employers.
We have a couple of students that come up every Thursday and they work in our kitchen. The values that we have as an organisation absolutely meet what Catcoat are doing. Any difficulties that we've come across, they've always been there, but I can't say I've actually had any.
We were approached by Catcoat Academy asking if we would be willing to take on a student to do some work during the week. We decided it would be a good idea and we've never looked back. She brings to the table what any other member of staff brings to the table.
Since Kim started with us last September, I've seen Kim's confidence grow phenomenally. Kim settled in like any other staff member, right? Absolutely superb, and is seen as part of the team, so she's no different from anybody else that works for us.
It's been really good having Emma on her workspace during the recycling. She's been with us over a year now. You can really see the benefits that it's bringing to her and to our staff.
Anyone has the potential to achieve what I can achieve. This is about focusing on what people can do, not what they can't do.
You just stand out as a school.
Getting employers on board, the results that you're getting with students, really you could show the rest of the country what students.
So it's very, very important that we develop those strong links with our local businesses.
Let us show you what they can do.
If people are unsure about taking on young people with special needs, I'd say definitely. And I'd say definitely from Catcoat Academy, because they give them so much support and they've given us so much support in bringing them through. And now, you know, it's just a standard member of staff. No different now.
I would encourage any and all employers to get involved with the scheme.
I would be willing to do this again and again because it's been so successful with Alice.
You do get a lot of reward from being able to help somebody.
And it just shows that everybody's actually got a part in society.
Focus on what we can do. Focus on what we can do.
Not what we can't.
So I'm just going to unmute you all for 5 minutes. So in terms of your practice, what did that film sort of say to you?
Employers involved. It's, has a big effect, doesn't it?
Mm. Yeah, it does.
And I think the school had prepared them well for when they moved into the employment setting.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point of their curriculum is you start with the outcome and you work backwards from the outcome.
Mm.
And that's when you've got the most successful career development landscape. You know, whoever you, whether you're a careers advisor or a careers leader, you know, whoever you are, as part of that process. Okay, anybody else have any comments they wanted to make about the film?
I guess it's just inspirational and wonderful to see the young people's, how their aspirations have been raised and how they've actually, you know, as they were saying themselves, focus on what we can do, not on what we can't. And those parents, when he said, I've got a paid job and I'm going to be earning a wage.
Yeah, it's massive. You can't underestimate that.
No.
It's absolutely huge. That film, by the way, is on their web. It's on our website. It's on their website as well. So if you wanted to use it, you know, as part of your work, it's absolutely fine to do that. Okay, all right. I'm going to move on. So I shall just meet you all again. So bye for a minute, and then we're just going to go back into the slides. Okie dokie. Okay, so we're going to look at some resources now. Okay. So this is quite a busy slide, but I thought I would just talk through the sorts of resources that different organisations can offer you. And again, I'll discuss with Ashley which of these slides you can actually, he can send to you. So obviously we've put ourselves in the preparing for adulthood. So this is the NDTI website, which has lots and lots of downloads and just great resources there on EHC plans, the processes, the people involved, and so on. The Careers and Enterprise Company has, you know, the biggie is the Send Gatsby Toolkit, which we've just rewritten actually, and that's just been republished or published. The updated version is published. So if you've used that before, then it would be a blue one, and now it's an orange one. There is a toolkit also on the Careers and Enterprise Company website, which National Grid wrote, which is about setting up a supported internship program. So it's actually for employers, which is really useful. The Employment Training Foundation, the Education and Training Foundation has got a lot of SEND resources. I mean, it's a bit busy, their website, but there is just something called a SEND Gateway. So again, you could have a look in there and have a little fish around and see what you can see. The www.autism.org website has a campaign around employment, and there's some good background reading, although as it says there, it makes sobering reading. I found this little film last night actually. So the Council for Disabled Children is probably the #1 charity for, they do a lot of lobbying with government and so on. And there's a tiny little film in there, which if we've got time, we might play it. And it's by a group of young people called Flares, who are aged 13 to 25, and they've all got SEND or disabilities. And it's actually about top tips for engaging in virtual careers advice sessions, but it's written by them. So we should have time to have a look at that. Barclays Life Skills. We actually create some resources, some SEND lesson plans, which you might be able to use in your work as well. CatCo, we've just watched the film, so you know you can use that if that helps. The BASE, so that's the British Association of Supported Employment. So they are the organisation who would professionally train and job coaches. They have a number of courses and lots of information and case studies, and they're definitely worth a look. Disability Rights UK. So they lobby and they have they publish a manual every it's just come out. We've just got one, so that it's about every June. An update on benefits and information on benefits. And I'm not suggesting that you become a benefits expert, but it's definitely an amazing organisation to actually signpost people to for advice. MenCap has a series of really nice, easy to read guides for people with learning difficulties to help them find employment. So they've also got vocational profiles, as does BASE, as does the NDTI. And obviously the CDI is working with us to do a lot more around SEND. So there's there's a lot of stuff out there for you to kind of build your knowledge and your practice and your confidence, as somebody said at the beginning. Okay, so we wanted to just include something around COVID. Obviously it's something which is, you know, affecting everybody in all sorts of ways, but particularly in terms of career development, careers interviews, and so on. So we actually looked at, we talked to a lot of people about what were they doing and what was working well, and particularly what's working well and would be carried on. So these were some of the things that they talked about in terms of what would actually, the sorts of things they wanted to carry on doing. So definitely people see careers guidance being delivered as a blended solution. So using virtual delivery methods like Zoom and Skype and Teams and Google Hangout and all the rest of them. And one of the advantages to that has been the increase in parental and family engagement, because obviously you're not going to do a call you know, with a young person with SEND without their family being there from a safeguarding point of view. One of the organisations we work with did a careers fair, a virtual careers fair, and you know, all the families came to the careers fair and they really enjoyed it, and they wanted, you know, whereas, you know, if it had been actually an actual careers fair, they wouldn't have turned up. So there, you know, people are seeing increased engagement of families. I mean, that's not to say that, you know, all families are like that. I mean, I read somewhere the other day that you know, 2 million children have not engaged in online education during lockdown. So we're not, you know, it's not the sort of nirvana that, you know, sometimes people are talking about in terms of remote education and so on. There is definitely an increased focus on mental health and well-being, definitely. And that has got to help, you know, when people have disabilities and when they have SEND additional needs, they are more likely to have mental health challenges. Skill development at home using the homes. CATCO were sending their students like tasks, little tasks to do. So maybe it was doing some supervised cooking or making a decoration, whatever it might be. And parents were really amazed, you know, at what their child could do. And that was a really nice one. So then maybe there'll be more of that. More attention being paid to transition. So rather than it just being, oh, you know, this kind of thing happens at this time of year in school, actually more people actually saying, oh, we've really got to consciously think about how this takes place, what we're trying to achieve, how we're trying to do it. And so I think there's something about people reviewing their practices and saying, you know, certainly careers advisors are doing a lot of this, you know, actually what is adding value that I'm doing? More collaboration between schools and colleges, so more of a two-way conversation and exchange, again, of what, you know, centered around students. Some employers have been getting involved with families, so National Rail also sent out packs for parents as well as children in a career sense, which was really nice, so they could work on these things together. As we're here today, definitely more focus on CPD, and I think there'll be a lot more virtual CPD and CPD that people can kind of like just kind of pick a mix and take when they're available. Greater networking and sharing. It just feels like the barriers are down, you know, we're talking to each other more, we're sharing more. And probably, you know, a greater integration of academic, careers, pastoral, mental health and wellbeing. So really looking at that sort of holistic view of the child, of the young person. I mean, there's no doubt that there's going to be massive challenges for our young people with SEND. You know, when you look at the numbers of people that are losing their jobs, you're looking at, you know, every recession, there is always, young people always suffer more disproportionately. We're part of a group that's been it's brought together loads of organisations to lobby government to perhaps put in a guarantee that organisations will recruit young people. I think the Chancellor did something the other day about talking about employers would get £3,000 to bring an apprentice in. So hopefully that will apply to supported apprenticeships in just the same way. So that, you know, we're in kind of uncharted waters, aren't we, really? But there's definitely some good stuff coming out and some intention to carry on with that good stuff, which is really helpful. So I think we've probably got time to play. This is just a very short, I'm going to play you this video, which is created by these children, as I said. And then we'll go back in. Let's see if we can, just need to try and make it a little bit bigger. Can you see that?
When you're in an online meeting, it's important to avoid using jargon, and to help with this, it is very useful to always send out the meeting agenda a couple of days beforehand. This will help to ease any anxiety.
Be aware that everyone works at their own pace. In meetings, please remember to speak clearly.
In a group meeting, have a system so everyone has a chance to speak.
In order to make sure that everyone can understand and process what information people are saying, pause regularly when speaking. When in a big meeting, ask people to speak one at a time.
Make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak when there's a large meeting.
If you're in a long meeting, make sure that people have the option to take regular breaks away from screens. In meetings, not everyone wants to be having their camera on.
In a system talking, I think you should raise your hands to let people know that you're about to talk.
So that everyone can participate, make sure you ask what sort of media they prefer to communicate on. Ask everyone to be muted unless they're speaking.
Patient with us, especially when you're asking us to talk about new concepts that may be confusing, so we can take time to digest them, and together we can make things better.
That's a really nice little film, I think, and it kind of reminds all of us to perhaps, when I was listening to that last night, and I was thinking, oh yes, you know, I'll try and incorporate that. And I know today I've probably like talked too much and all the rest of it, but I just think for us as practitioners, that's kind of a nice little reminder, really, because there's no doubt that virtual delivery methods are going to carry on. Okay, so in summary, today we have really we've really galloped through some stuff. So we did a little review from the first masterclass. We've looked at statutory career planning processes, EHC plans, career pathways from school and beyond. We've looked at organisations, at resources and the organisations that can help you. We've looked at employer encounters. We've looked at a case study. You know, you've had a chat about how things actually, your practice and how you can improve that practice, and maybe things when they didn't quite go right. And I just think you probably, you know, had a little bit of time to it. The joy of doing something like this, I think, is meeting new people, listening to new people, and, you know, thinking about, yeah, what you do and how you can improve outcomes in terms of how you can improve your practice. So we've got about 5 minutes now, and what I can do is what I'd like to do is just go through what's going to happen in the next couple of masterclasses, because I think you're signed up for these. So the next one is on July the 20th, and we're going to go a little bit further into kind of looking at the medical and social models of disability, including the use of language. We're going to look at #same and different, and some of you, I've talked to you about that before, but we've done a little bit more development on that now, particularly with Career Send Group 2, so we can take a bit of a dive into that. Parents, families and carers, and that, you know, that's really, I think we'll focus our breakout on that, because it is something which we really need to work together to improve that support. The business benefits of employing a diverse workforce, definitely. So kind of when you're involved with employers, you know, being able to sort of talk about why it's good for them. Obviously, we'll do a little bit more on, you know, COVID and your practice. And then the last one, which is a little bit, you know, summer will just be a distant dream by this date. But so looking at really kind of how you deliver your practice. So looking at communication needs of different young people with SEND, and how, you know, maybe sort of what sorts of tactics and mechanisms you could use, building your confidence working with young people with SEND. So maybe we want to get under the skin of what is it that saps people's confidence or makes them believe they don't have the confidence, and what could we do about that? Actually, so we're kind of building up our parents' families piece and kind of saying, well, how can you challenge back onto to a family, and maybe looking at ways that we could do that. And also exploring ways, you know, looking at how other people are delivering their role, and maybe, you know, helping you to think through other ways that you could deliver your role as well. So those are the sorts of things that we're going to be focusing on in the next 2 masterclasses. So in terms of your feedback today, what would be useful is if you could feedback, maybe if you can send us, and I'll put my email up on the screen now, if you could maybe send me just maybe a couple of lines of kind of like how this course was for you, just in your own words. So we're not going to use, I'm not going to use a specific evaluation tool, but the Career Development Institute will be sending you probably a survey monkey to actually feed back to them in terms of, you know, you're against a specific framework. So like I said, we've probably got about 5 minutes if I take the mute off, and if anybody wants to share anything. And as one of the young ladies there said, if we maybe people who maybe haven't actually haven't spoken yet, if you're feeling brave. So just share any thoughts about today, or, you know, maybe something that's come to you, or an idea that you think, oh yeah, I could do that.
Can I ask a question, Jenny? Just
yeah.
What is the? I was just thinking about, you know, how employers in that film, how much employers were benefiting from it, and their staff. So how do you reach employers, your organisation? Is there?
Well, there's a number of ways. So I mean, the kind of stock answer is to say there's 10,000 disability confident employers. So if you go onto the DWP website, you can find disability confident employers. So that's kind of like a macro answer. But what we say to our special schools is, if you were to, because special schools, you know, they tend to sort of write to all sorts of people and get no answers. And we also to say, well, if you maybe use your staff as the network, and to say, you know, within your staff network, there will be people who know exactly what you're doing, be very proud of you for doing it, and it's kind of a soft landing. So, and be specific about the ask. Don't ask for too much. And then the third is obviously if you have an enterprise coordinator, so you're on the CC network.
Yeah.
And one of the things they do is provide volunteers from employers called enterprise advisors, who obviously can help broker employers in. That's very much, you know, I mean, there's lots and lots of, there's I mean, I don't know. Do you know, Carly, how many enterprise, there's probably 2,500 now, enterprise advisors?
It is 2,000, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of them, and I know that, you know, enterprise coordinators are busy recruiting enterprise advisors. But
we find it quite hard to get enterprise advisors for SEND schools. It can be difficult to.
Because we did some work with the CIPD, Sven, and we actually got them to change the recruitment process. And there is now like a little leaflet that says working with SEND schools, which you can actually give a prospective enterprise advisor. So, you know, we're trying, but I mean, I'm not going to say where, but I did actually apply to be an enterprise advisor in a special school, and I haven't even had an answer yet, which is interesting.
But you can come to the west of England. We'll take you on there.
I'd love to come to the west of England, frankly. But yeah, so I think, you know, just kind of like find your LEP, find your enterprise coordinator, see if they're able to, you know, maybe sort of, and also just look. It's kind of like look in your own backyard. I mean, I just think, you know, staff in special schools, you know, that all of their families will think, God, they're doing a great job. Some of them will be employed. Some of them will have friends that are employed. You know, it's like, Look for a soft landing in your own network. Okay.
Thank you.
Are you fully stated?
Sorry?
No, I said any other questions, or are you fully sated?
That was the last bit, didn't hear you.
All right. Any other questions?
Could the CDI just clarify when we might get slides? Because for me, it helps, although I've written lots of notes, it helps me to look over it again, for me to process it all, really.
Yeah, I will provide Ashley with a set of slides, which I'm happy to be shared. So I just would want, I'm not going to give the whole slide deck away, but I just want to make sure that I'm giving away, so the sort of core content. So I'll pass them on to the CDI. So yeah.
It just helps me to process it, that's all.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I like writing.
Lots of information, and some of it looked really useful. So that would.
Oh, just great. Some of it, Liz. Not all of
it.
it.
All of it, actually. Sorry. All of it, but it all looked really good.
Really sensitive.
Thank you.
No, in terms of it's fine. So in terms of the kind of like the next couple of masterclasses, as most of you are going to kind of like, we're going to travel together, I think what would be useful is if you actually, if there's something you want me to particularly cover, can you maybe email me and just say, I'd like to have a little bit of a dig around with this. I think it would be useful, because I've kind of put this together in terms of what I think would be useful, but I'm very happy for you to tell me as well, particularly as we're going to be hanging out together. Is that okay? All right then. Well, you have 2 minutes now to go and make a cup of tea, and I shall bid you adieu until the next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was great.
Take care. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.